Interactions within biotic components. In an ecosystem, biotic components interact with each other, primarily through feeding relationships. These interactions give rise to food chains and food webs. Food chain. A food chain is a sequence of organisms where each organism is eaten by the next one in the chain. For example, in a typical food chain, green plants known as producers are consumed by a rabbit, a primary consumer. The rabbit is then eaten by a snake, a secondary consumer, which is subsequently eaten by an eagle, a tertiary consumer. When the eagle dies, its body is broken down by microorganisms, such as fungi and bacteria, into simpler nutrients that return to the soil. These nutrients are then absorbed by plants, thus continuing the cycle. Grass, rabbit, snake, eagle. Examples of food chains. 1. Forest ecosystem. Green plants, deer, lion. Producer, green plants, which produce their own food through photosynthesis. Herbivore, deer, which feed on plants and act as primary consumers. Carnivore, lions, which prey on herbivores and act as secondary consumers. 2. Grassland ecosystem, a 4-step. Grass, insect, frog, eagle. Producer, grass, which forms the base of the food chain. Herbivore, insects that feed on grass, acting as primary consumers. Carnivore, frogs, which eat insects, followed by eagles that prey on frogs, representing secondary and tertiary consumers, respectively. Food web. In an ecosystem, most consumers rely on more than one type of food source, which leads to the formation of complex feeding relationships. A food web is a complex network of interconnected food chains in an ecosystem, unlike a food chain, which shows a linear sequence of who eats whom. A food web illustrates how different food chains in an ecosystem overlap and connect. In a food web, each organism may have multiple food sources and predators, which creates a complex network of feeding relationships. For example, a mouse in a terrestrial ecosystem might eat seeds, acting as a primary consumer, and insects, acting as a secondary consumer. The mouse can be preyed upon by snakes, owls or hawks, making it a part of several food chains within the food web. In a pond ecosystem, small fish may eat algae, acting as primary consumers, and smaller invertebrates acting as secondary consumers. These fish may be eaten by larger fish or birds, showing their role in multiple food chains. Flow of energy. The sun is the primary source of energy for almost all ecosystems on Earth. Green plants, producers, are unique because they can capture energy from the sun. This captured solar energy is converted into chemical energy, which is stored in the plant's tissues. As plants are the primary source of energy, all food chains begin with them. Therefore, solar energy flows through food chains, transferring energy from one organism to another. Did you know? The energy flow in a food chain is always unidirectional. This means energy moves in one direction, from producers to various levels of consumers, and never flows backward. According to scientific research, only about 10% of the energy stored in producers is passed on to primary consumers. Trophic levels and pyramid of numbers. In an ecosystem, the transfer of food and energy occurs at different levels, known as trophic levels. Each trophic level represents a step in the food chain. 1. First trophic level. Producers, green plants or producers form the first trophic level. They convert solar energy into chemical energy through photosynthesis, which is stored in their tissues. 2. Second trophic level. Primary consumers. Herbivores, such as snails, rabbits, deer, and goats, form the second trophic level. These organisms feed directly on producers to obtain energy. 3. Third trophic level. Secondary consumers. Carnivores that feed on herbivores such as snakes, frogs, small birds and fish constitute the third trophic level. 4. Fourth trophic level. Tertiary consumers. The fourth trophic level consists of large carnivores or top predators that feed on herbivores and smaller carnivores. Examples include eagles, tigers, and lions. Example of a food chain in a grassland ecosystem. An example of a food chain in a grassland ecosystem is grass, rat, snake, eagle, producer, herbivore, carnivore, top carnivore. The corresponding trophic levels in this food chain are as follows. Grass producer, first trophic level. Rat, herbivore, second trophic level. Snake, carnivore, third trophic level. Eagle, top carnivore, fourth trophic level. Pyramid of numbers. A pyramid of numbers illustrates the number of organisms at each trophic level in a food chain. At the base of the pyramid, which represents the first trophic level, the number of organisms is the highest. As you move up to the higher trophic levels, the number of organisms decreases. For example, first trophic level, there are approximately 10 to 12 plants. Second trophic level, there are about 5 to 6 herbivores. Third trophic level, there are about 3 to 4 carnivores. Fourth trophic level, usually only one top carnivore is present.